Hello, sisters, and welcome to Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel. It's time to sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy my conversation with Linda Beach as she shares how she manifested the beach and her move to Belize.
Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean Go Solo Live? Have you ever been asked, why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Today, I have with me Linda Beach, whose name seems really appropriate given the context of where she is. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, thanks for having me, Jennifer.
So is this like a pseudonym that you've picked to now go along with your personality, or is this your real name?
Well, I married Mr. Beach about a dozen years ago, and when we separated, and I told him I've got to keep that name because it's perfect for me. I've always loved the beach, born in Miami, like that's my happy place.
I think it completely aligns, and what a wonderful way to kind of keep your dream right in front of you all the time.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you joining us here today, and I love your story because I think your solo journey almost snuck up on you in a way.
Yeah, it did actually. I honestly hadn't really planned on it happening so fast. You know, it just started with this little seedling of a dream, and then it catapulted into reality rather quickly.
So we know we'll get to where you are now, because where you are now is the big, amazing, like, wow part of this. But can you take us back a little bit about, the steps that it took to get you to where you are now? What happened in your life? What happened with your travels?
Absolutely. So I've always been a travel junkie. I love to scuba dive. So I tended to go to the Caribbean, places where I could dive. And every time I would travel, I would say to myself, I really want to live in the Caribbean. I really need to live on the ocean. Coming from Miami, I always loved being near the ocean, but I moved to Arizona in the desert when I was 11, and I just always felt that part of me was missing. So 10 years ago, I moved to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. So I was surrounded by water, and it was a beautiful area to be in, but I still had this really strong longing to move somewhere tropical. So a couple of years ago, I decided to expand my retreat business. Now, at the time, I owned a massage and aesthetic school. I'd owned it for 18 years. I'd been a massage therapy instructor for 26. And I had done some retreats locally and some workshops, but I wanted to have international retreats. I wanted to take students faraway lands and, make money traveling. So I took a course in how to create retreats. And I soon realized that I actually didn't really want to train massage therapists on my retreat. I wanted to do something different.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of hone into the fact that I'd been a business owner for 26 years. And I had these skills that I could help other women really follow their dreams. So I became a Dream Builder Life Coach through the Life Mastery Institute. And I thought, now this would be the perfect kind of like course. This would be the perfect information to share on a transformational retreat. Well, that got me thinking. At the time, I'm like, well, if you're going to become a Dream Builder Life Coach, you really need to look at your own dreams, right? I can't I can't teach people like, what is your grandest dream when I'm living what at the time was an okay life. Like I wasn't unhappy, but it wasn't my passion. I didn't jump out of bed every day and go, oh my God, it's Monday. I can't wait. I know. Woohoo. I still had this business that, and even though I was an entrepreneur, I still had to go to work. I still had employees. I still had bills to pay. I still couldn't just jump up and dash off anytime I wanted. I didn't have the freedom lifestyle that I really wanted to have.
Yep.
So that was the first thing. I had to stop and go, what is your dream, your grandest dream? And what I work with my clients on is like, take your dreams and set them 3 years in the future. So that's what I did for myself. I said, okay, 3 years from now, what would you like your life to look like? All of the details, like where do you want to live and what would that feel like and what would it smell like and what would your view be in the morning and who would you meet and hang out with and talk to and the kinds of things that you would do. And so I started doing that exercise for myself and I got super excited. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this thing. I think I'm going to move to the Caribbean. So like that was the beginning of it, but I had no idea how the heck to do it.
Well, that's why it's wonderful that you're an expert at this. But so your work is about manifesting dreams.
Yes.
And while I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a business-minded lady, but this sounds a little woo-woo, which I like, but it might sound a little bit too woo-woo for some other people. But you came to it by way of the salon. How did you?
Well, having the massage and aesthetic school.
Okay.
That was my bread and butter. And it's funny that you say woo woo because I have been studying these concepts since I was 18, like many, many, many years. But I lived in South Carolina, so I kind of hid the spiritual part of me, the woo woo part of me. Yep. So I would joke with people and tell them, I'm not woo woo. I'm just one woo. I'm like half woo.
I keep hearing that joke too, and I love it. I think that we're just a little woo.
I'm just a little woo. So, but listen, I've gotten more comfortable with that part of me, and I've gotten more comfortable talking about it because I am living proof that the law of attraction works, that these concepts work if you put them into action. But the problem is people see like the movie The Secret or they read a book and they just don't really know how to apply it to themselves, and that's what my coach helped me with. And that's what I help people with. So once I kind of started formulating the dream, I started doing the research because you can have a big fat dream and then just sit on your sofa and go, okay, come on.
I have a dream.
Right. Now you got to do the work. Like you have to make it happen. And one of the things you need to do, though, is to have a dream that's so big, you don't really know how you're going to get there, right? You just take the next step. Yep. So the next step for me was researching where I might like to live. And I had been studying and following International Living, which is an online magazine, and I'd been following them for years. And so I went to a convention where they had representatives from a number of different countries that I met with, and I narrowed it down after a couple of days of talking to people to Panama and Belize. And when I got home, I started thinking about it, and Belize really was like, I wanted to be right where I could scuba dive out my front door.
Okay. So, I'm a diver as well. And that has actually dictated a lot of my travel decisions is if I can't dive there, I don't necessarily want to go there.
Right.
So I appreciate that. And so that was just your decision point.
Yeah. That was, in the top 3. It had to be and living oceanfront was like that was non-negotiable either. So after realizing that there weren't a ton of expat communities in dive locations in Panama, I thought, well, I'm going to go check out Belize. So the funny thing is that I made a decision to move to Belize before I ever came here. Like I just started telling people, I think at some point you have to just make an announcement. You have to own it. This is your dream. This is what you're going to do. So the first thing I did, and it's been almost 2 years, it was on Thanksgiving 2 years ago, I sat down with my family over Thanksgiving dinner, and they knew that I was kind of thinking about something, but I hadn't really shared it because one of the things when you're working on your dream, you don't want to share it with people I call the dream stealers. People that might say, are you crazy? What are you talking about? You want to move? And my kids, they were grown, but they're used to having mom around. Not only that, my middle daughter worked for me. She was one of my aesthetics instructors. So mom's going to leave, then she's out of a job. So I knew she wouldn't be crazy about that idea. So over the dinner table, I said, at Thanksgiving, I said, all right, guys, I've decided I'm moving to Belize. And they're like, what? Sure, whatever, right? And then the next thing was, well, what are you going to do with your school? And I said, I have no idea, but I really do need to sell it in order to create this life of my dreams. So once again, I was just going forward in faith. I didn't know how to sell a business. I didn't have the paperwork ready. I didn't know if I had to get a agent or whatever, to help me with that process. So
Yep.
the following Monday, my daughter, who worked with me, she went to the school and she told my receptionist, who I just hired, this is so funny. She said, I think my mom's going to sell the school, but I'm going to convince her to give it to me.
Oh.
So my brand new receptionist, sweet little thing, $10 an hour, comes walking upstairs and she said, Miss Linda, your daughter mentioned that you might be selling the school or giving it to her. And I went, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, she's a great esthetician, but she's not a business owner. And so that's not going to happen. I said, but it's a secret. However, just keep in mind, if you hear of anybody looking or know of anybody that you think might be interested, let me know. And she looked me square in the eye and she said, I want to buy your school. And I was like, no offense, but like, do you have the means? And she said, I do. And I went, well, let's talk. So I tossed out a number, a pretty high number actually, and told her, just sit on that. And then a week later, come back and make me an offer. Well, let me tell you what, she made me such a fabulous offer a week later that I just looked at her and said, sold, hugged, let's have a group hug. And that was how I sold my business. I kid you not. We ended up closing on leap day of last year, February 29th, because she was making a leap. I was making a leap.
That's awesome. So symbolically chosen to close on leap day.
I know. And the lawyer was like, I don't know if I have the paperwork ready. And I said, you have to. I have to close on leap day.
This is not an option.
Right. So that worked out. We closed on leap day and I still hadn't been to Belize. But by then I told everybody, all my friends, I'm moving to Belize. And people were like, wonderful. Have you been there? And I'm like, no. So, we're talking about travel and solo travel. So the next step was that I had to go to Belize and check it out to see if it's really where I wanted to live. So that was the next thing up on my plate.
Oh my gosh. So let's take a moment and recognize the fact that there is some serendipity in play here. In one breath, your daughter shares with your new administrative reception person. And the next thing you know, that's the person who's buying your business with an offer that wasn't in any way about scarcity.
No, it was more than I would have happily taken for my business.
Right.
I've never told her that, of course, but
So, but that's a big deal. Like that's like affirmation that what you're putting out is certainly, aligned with where you're supposed to be.
Correct. And when you start working on your dream and you follow the steps that I teach anyway about trusting, like there's like 5 questions where you can test your dream to see if your dream is worthy of you. And now don't get me wrong, like there are things that you have to do, some personal work that you have to do on yourself in order to move forward and start manifesting your dreams. Like I had some fears I had to get over. I had a lot of like physical challenges, having tons and tons of stuff, 4-bedroom condo filled to the gills. And I lived on the island without a bridge. So I couldn't just call Goodwill with a truck to come get my stuff. I had to ferry it off of the island. I lived on this island called the Fusky Island, and I could only get there by boat. There was no bridge. So I had to leave my car in Hilton Head and take a boat. So anyway, there were some challenges and obstacles that I had to get across. But the first obstacle was that I had never been to this country that I had declared as my new home. So I decided for my birthday, which is May 5th, I decided I was going to go to Belize and check out 3 areas. I kind of narrowed it down after doing some research to 3 areas, and I planned a 10-day trip. It was really the longest solo trip I'd ever taken. Like I had been on some shorter trips, and I'd been on trips where I met friends once I arrived, but this was 10 days solo in a foreign country that I was going to make my home. So
where did you even start? You'd already made a decision and you knew what some of the qualifications were that you were looking for, including waterfront and, diving accessible, like you've decided. But like, how did you had 10 days, and I assume that the goal was to make the decision in those 10 days.
Right. Well, the goal of the 10 days, first of all, was to dive in every location because since that was important, I wanted to make sure the diving was good. So that was one of the criteria, that I had to dive. And I just wanted to get a feel for it. At that point, I wasn't necessarily looking for a home because the way things happen a lot of times in in other countries, in Caribbean countries especially, is when something becomes available, it's snatched right up. So here it is in May, and my move date was August 1st. I wasn't going to go there and secure a place that they would hold until August 1st. So I just wanted to go there and check it out. So that was my agenda. And I went to Key Cocker, this little teeny funky like backpacker's paradise. And that was okay. But it was similar to where I was living. It was like really funky and small and pretty much, I call it bar centric, not much to do except bars, right? And the diving wasn't bad, but it was quite a ways to get to the reef. And then from there, I went to Placencia, which is on the mainland, but a peninsula. And that was lovely, but it was like this long stretch of land. And so everything was really far spread out. So without a car, which I didn't have, that would be challenging. And that one the people I talked to, the expats, there seemed to be a lot of families or couples. That felt like a great place if somebody was retiring, a couple maybe, or a young family. But that didn't feel right for me. So then I came to Ambergris Key, which is an island near Key Cocker off the coast and just south of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. For those who, like, people ask me all the time, where is Belize? I go find Mexico and go south. So southeast. But anyway, so I came to Ambergris Key, and the diving was spectacular. And literally 5 minutes, you get in a boat, zoom, there you are on the reef. And so inexpensive because of the accessibility. Whereas Placencia, which I didn't mention, was an hour and a half each way on a boat. It was ridiculous to get there. And so that was the first thing. I was like, okay, check, diving. And the second thing for me was I needed to find an expat community or, people that I could socialize with. I'm moving to a foreign country by myself. I wanted to make friends. So, and that's hard. Like, I'm an extrovert by nature, but I don't care who you are. To plop yourself in a country, thank goodness they speak English. Oh, that was one of my criteria. I didn't know Spanish very well. So Belize is an English-speaking country, but I wanted to be able to make friends, and I had to really put myself out there. Like, I had to make myself get in the little golf cart I rented, and every day I was here, I'd drive somewhere and just go up to people with this little notebook, and I was like, hi, I'm thinking about moving here. What's your name? What's your story? Where do you live? What do you think? And I just asked, and I took notes. I asked a lot of people a lot of questions. So that was kind of my discovery process. But I'll tell you one more story about manifesting and how things just kind of work out when you're in the zone. And the night before I left the island, it was actually my birthday. It was May 5th, a Thursday night. I heard about this social event called Wine Down Thursday, and at this place called Marbucks. I know, right?
That sounds awesome.
Wine. All right. So I said, I'm going to that because it has wine and it had live music. And so I got there, and, everybody knew everybody, and they were in little groups, but I'm not, I just kind of had to go up to people, and I saw these groups of ladies standing around talking, and one of them had a dog. And since I have a rescue dog, I thought that'd be a good segue. So I started chatting with her, and I'm like, oh, you have a nice dog. And so right away, if you like people's dogs, they tend to be more open and friendly with you. So in our conversation, I told her that I'm thinking about moving here at the end of the summer, and she said, well, I'm looking for a house sitter. I need to go back to the States for 6 weeks. And so maybe if that timing works out, maybe you could come here and house sit for me while you look for a place to live. And I said, well, what date do you need a house sitter? And she said, August 1st. Well, if you recall, that's my move date was August 1st. And I looked at her, I know I have goosebumps just talking about it. And I said, seriously, August 1st? And she said, yes. And I said, that's my move here date. And we kept in touch. And sure enough, that worked out phenomenally. I ended up coming here. I left my dog behind while I came here to house sit for 6 weeks. And during that time, I was able to find my perfect oceanfront condo, which is even another story because they said it wouldn't be ready until October 1st. And I said, oh, funny, because I'm moving back with my dog on October 1st. So
wow.
I kid you not a big window of time, an exact amount of time.
Right. Okay. So once again, this is like the universe affirming that you are exactly doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes. But I tell you, we're here talking about solo travel, and I will tell you that, that I say that was the easy part, because, the actual coming here and being here and leaving behind your home country and your family and getting rid of everything and all of that, that was definitely challenging. Like, I had to strengthen my bravery muscles big time for that whole process. But in the end, it's been phenomenal.
So what was the biggest challenge that you were overcoming? Because as things were aligning for you and giving you the affirmations that you're headed in the right direction, what were your challenges?
Once I moved here?
Or even in the search?
Okay, so I think the challenges, and I touched on it a bit, is having to put yourself out there. Because even after I came back and I was house sitting, well, the first challenge was 2 days later, a major hurricane hit the island. And this island hasn't seen a hurricane in many, many years. And it devastated all of the dive shops and took out all of the docks. It was intense. And I was house sitting. So I didn't know, I had just gotten there a day and a half earlier. I didn't know this lady's house. But lucky for me, I'm from Miami. So I was like, I got this, no worries. Other than some leaks in the roof, they were very loud and no electricity. So that was the first challenge. But, I handled that well. But after that, my greatest challenge was really putting myself out there. So just like solo travel, you can be a total hermit. And there are times when I solo travel that I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be an observer. I want to go sit at a cafe and I want to watch people and drink a latte. And that's fine and dandy. But when you're moving to a new country and this is going to be my home, I want to have friends. I want to meet people that are similar. So that was my biggest challenge, because there was this thing inside of me that was like, I've never quite fit in. I'm not a country club kind of person, which thank goodness, because, living on a Caribbean island is definitely not country club. It's pretty laid back. But I had to get up every day and say, all right, where are you going today? Who you're going to meet today? I had my little notebook with me.
And a bit more intentional about that rather than just letting it happen.
Yes, I absolutely had to be intentional about it, because, there were times when I'm like, I just don't feel like it. But I that was important to me. So I made a point to find out, where are the places to go. And I met some people that weren't a good fit for me socially. As in any Caribbean island, there's a bar-centric, flair about it. So you have to kind of find your way and find your group and I'm still doing that, but I've met some wonderful people. So I would say that's my biggest challenge. Not once I had gotten rid of all of my worldly possessions and I was down to a couple of suitcases, it actually felt really, really good. So the challenge wasn't getting rid of everything, but having such a lighter load was very refreshing. And then reality set in. Here I was in a place that really doesn't have stores per se. There's no Walmart or Target. I can't just run down and pick up something I'm used to picking up.
Amazon Prime doesn't get it to the same day?
No. You can't order stuff. I mean, yes, you can. There are some shipping companies that you can ship from Amazon, but you're going to pay 40% duty. So we help each other out and we mule things. So anytime anyone goes to the U.S., or any of our friends, we say, hey, can I order some things? Can you stick it in your suitcase, make room for me and bring it back? So, I've done a lot of that. And so have my friends. We've helped each other out that way.
So how had your past solo travel experiences prepared you for this, embarking on this entirely new life?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think that having had some solo experiences was really helpful, knowing that life in the Caribbean is not life in the U.S. So people come here and they get all starry-eyed and they're like, oh, I'm going to move to Belize, because they come here and they stay in a 5-star resort and they go snorkeling and it's all peachy keen, right? And then you get here and reality sets in that the roads are full of potholes and I sold my car and I drive an old golf cart. That's what people drive here, a golf cart. So when it rains, you get wet.
And
So
dirty.
and dirty and sweaty. I've never been so hot in my life. But having traveled to other Caribbean countries and understanding the culture, that's another thing. You come to a place like this to live, and it's our job to figure out, to find our place within their culture, not to change their culture.
Right.
There's some things that we can help with. I have friends that are really invested in helping to clean up the plastic and the trash on the island, and educating Belizeans about, health and child welfare and
Sure.
things like that. So there's all sorts of causes that you can get involved in. Humane Society here has been wonderful. They've really helped educate people about taking care of their animals.
Nice.
So having traveled and seeing these cultures has really helped me fit into this new culture.
That's awesome. So when you talk about, the locals, how are they feeling? I mean, this is a big infusion. I mean, more and more people, aside from the tourism, which is great, and I'm using air quotes around that, for the economy, because I think it also creates some disparity in the economy. How are the locals feeling about Americans moving and making Belize their new home?
It's a mixed bag. For the most part, they really are accepting. They're super friendly people. Belizeans are just so laid back. They've got that Caribbean vibe about them, that island vibe. So the people that are involved in their livelihood involves tourists, they're very open and receptive because they know that tourists come here and that creates jobs for them, right?
Yep.
It's when the Americans and the Canadians come here and they decide that things aren't quite right or up to their standards and they need to fix it, that there's conflict, right?
Absolutely.
So, I've seen both sides of it, but I would say for the most part, very accepting, very loving, super friendly. I mean, I have Belizean friends and I have expat friends, both.
Well, and so what are the things that you're hearing or seeing are the most important causes to these new citizens' minds? What are they fixing?
Well, the trash situation is ridiculous.
Okay.
And that's important too, because, we want the island to look beautiful because we live here, but it's a matter of educating the Belizeans that you need to keep your island clean so that tourists will continue to want to come here. Right. So that's a big issue, and one that I know a lot of people, including myself, are involved in, because I'm all about the ocean. I mean, every morning when I walk my dog on the beach, I take a bag and I pick up plastic because I don't want that plastic in my beloved ocean.
Absolutely.
Injuring the turtles and the other,
Absolutely. That was actually one of my most frustrating experiences diving in Fiji was, to be in Fiji, seeing the beauty and then on the main island, all the crud washed up on shore.
Oh, I know. I was in Bali in February, and I had been there about 8 years ago. And I came back and I was at the same beach, and I almost didn't recognize it. There wasn't one step I could take without stepping on plastic. It's sad. And I'm glad that people are becoming more aware of it because there's solutions that are coming up. Belize, they're a little bit further behind in some of these efforts. So hopefully the expats coming here, they just have to learn how to work with the government. That's not always the easiest thing to do.
Absolutely. That it's fascinating. So aside from where you've landed now, talk to me about one of your favorite solo travels.
Oh, goodness. So one of my favorites was actually not long ago. I lived here for months before I ever went into the mainland. I would just fly there or take a ferry and hop on a plane and leave Belize, but I'd never been to the jungles. And I still need to go back because it was only 2 nights, but it was wickedly cool. I went to this resort called Ian Anderson's Cave Branch, and I decided I was going to go have an adventure. And an adventure for sure, because I went into this cave waterfall repelling. I actually wrote a blog post about it called On a Ledge in the Dark in a Cave, because that was me. You had to rappel in the dark, and there were spiders as big as your hand, and bats flying overhead, and the only light was on your helmet. And I was climbing up in this caves and rappelling up waterfalls. But then on the way down, you had to jump off the ledge into the pool of water below,
Uh-huh.
and there was one particular waterfall that you stood on a ledge in the dark at 22 feet high. And the guide kept saying, jump where my flashlight is. And I couldn't hear him because the waterfall was so loud, but all I could hear him say
Sure.
was, jump far or you'll hit your head on the rock.
No pressure.
No pressure. So long story short, I ended up rappelling down. I didn't jump. So I have to go back and do it again. Like I decided, at first I felt like I had failed, but hey, let me tell you, after emerging from that cave, there was no failing happening there. That was quite an adventure. So I did some really cool jungle stuff, and I'm anxious to go back and explore some of the ruins. But everywhere I go in this country, people they are so friendly and talkative. I've been in some places where the locals are shy about talking to you.
Okay.
When I went to Bali, surprisingly, the first time, and I talked to, I try to talk to everybody.
Sure.
I want to know what it's like to be them and to live there and what their culture's like. The only way to do that is to really talk to them. So I don't travel like a tourist. I really want to travel and talk to the people that live there so that I can learn about their culture. So That was a really fun trip. It was adventurous, and I can't wait to go back and explore the jungles some more.
That's exciting. And, being so close, it's an entirely different level of accessibility for that, where again, for some of us, that would be that adventure in and of itself would be that trip of a lifetime.
Right. And that's a great point, because living here, even though I'm on an island, I can take a ferry to the mainland for like $25 round trip. And then from there, rent a car or get a driver to take me into the jungles. I've also, since I've moved here, I've been to Nicaragua for a trip. I went to Costa Rica for a trip. So, Central America is very accessible, where, like you're saying, if I was living back in the US, each one of those would be a major trip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So have you had a lot of visitors come down yet? And what has been their impression of your new life?
Oh, that makes me laugh, because I lived here for months and months and months, and none of my kids had come, not one person in my family. I had about 8 Facebook friends, people I'd never met from my different groups. A couple of my coaching clients, they came here just on vacation and we met up. But nobody that I really knew had come to visit. So finally, my daughter and her husband came a couple months ago. My other 2 kids have not been yet, and they loved it. They had the best time. So it was so much fun to show somebody my new home, that had never been here. Now that I know a little bit about the places to go and the things to do, and so.
Well, and I'm sure now they can imagine a little bit better what your life is like on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Before then, my daughter, and she's the one who's an esthetician, she's a makeup artist. So she's kind of a girly girl. So she just couldn't even conceive of driving a golf cart. Like, I would tell her stories and she's like, I can't even imagine what that's like. So I loved having her here, especially because she hasn't traveled Caribbean style ever. It was, she's been on a cruise ship. She's been, a more fancy pants traveler. So it was nice to show her, like, let's get down and see the real Belize.
So what's next for you then? Because now you're in a version of living this ideal lifestyle that you have manifested. Is there a new dream on the horizon, or is it just to maximize what you have?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that, because this will be my first public declaration. So
I love it.
So once you arrive at your dream, you really need to update that dream vision. So I was sitting here literally about a month ago going, wow, this is awesome. This is exactly like I imagined. And I pulled out all my notes and my dream vision from when I got my certified as a dream builder coach. And I literally described this view, this life, and again, goosebumps. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Now I need to update it, because what's next? So I started really thinking about it. I thought, I loved moving here. I love living here, but I want to travel. Like, I want to travel the world. I want to help other people travel, inspire people to travel, teach them how to be location independent with their business so they can work from anywhere. So staying here is okay for now, but it's not long term. So I made a decision to stay until the end of March. And then I'm going to go back and stay with my daughter in Savannah for about a month just to kind of regroup. And then I'm off to Italy. And I'm going to live in Italy. Well, here's what I'm going to do. 3 months abroad. So Italy's first, because I've always wanted to go there. That's like number one on my bucket list. I've never been there. So it's got to be next. And I can go there 90 days, just my passport. So I'm going to go 90 days to Italy. Then I'm going to come back to Savannah for a few weeks or a month. And then I'm going to go somewhere else for 90 days. And then I'm going to come back. So I'm going to do 90 days out, 1 month home. And that's going to be it for a while, I think. So I've got Italy, Spain, Croatia, Greece. Oh yeah. I'm so excited.
Well, but you have a plan. So this is awesome. Like now that you have the next dream, you're just working towards making it happen.
Yes. Well, so again, when you're dreaming this big and you're really working on creating a new life, you don't have to know. In fact, you shouldn't necessarily know how you're going to get there. So I don't know how all that's going to happen. I just know that's what I want to happen. That's my dream. So I just literally polished up my dream vision last week. Italy's the first stop. So that's as far as I've gotten. But I do know that now that I've created a location independent business, that the world is my oyster. I can go live anywhere, work anywhere, travel anywhere. And that is brilliant. So that's what I want to help other people do. I want to inspire them. I want to share the things that I've learned so that people that are like me, ready for something grander, ready to get out of their 9 to 5 or their business, whatever it is that they're doing that keeps them stuck. That's what I want to do next.
That sounds fantastic. And if you're ever looking for a house sitter, let me know.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I definitely will.
I think that's where you got your start. So
I know. I definitely plan to do some more house sitting. It's a great way.
I think that's a great opportunity for you to share that gift with others.
Yeah, yes, actually.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty cool. Well, Linda, you have been a pure joy to talk with today. And I would love to make sure that people know where they can continue to follow your adventures and connect with you. Can you let everybody know a little bit about where they can find you? And they'll get that information in the show notes as well.
Okay, yes. Well, my website's called A Passionate Dream Life, because that's what I've created for myself. That's what I help other people create. And on the homepage, there's a great freebie, and you'll have the link to that as well, called the Freedom Lifestyle Roadmap. It's a wonderful PDF ebook about the steps that I took, the steps that you need to take in order to create the life of your dreams. I also have a Facebook group called Fearless Freedom Tribe, and that's filled with people that are creating the life of their dreams. And then women passionate about travel. That's another group I have that's only women, all about travel.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that everybody knows how to contact you. And I definitely appreciate you taking the time to share your stories with us today, Linda.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, Jennifer. It's been a blast.
Wasn't it great to hear the stories that Linda shared with us today? It's important to remember that when you put your dreams in motion, amazing things can happen. If you love these stories and want to help support Go Solo Live, you can do that by making a small financial contribution to the show at patreon.com/Go Solo Live. That's patreon.com at Go Solo Live. Show your love. Well, we've reached the end of today's episode, but the conversation doesn't have to end there. If you're interested in being a guest, please contact me at jennifer@transformviatravel.com. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends who'd be interested, and follow us on Twitter at Go Solo Live. Until next time, remember, go solo, not alone.